Goal setting and planning is one of my favorite things, and if you're looking for layout inspiration, you've come to the right place. Today we're looking at 12 different layouts that you can use to help you crush your goals in the year ahead. Our first idea is that of a goal brainstorming page, and up the top here is where my brainstorm was. I know it's fairly pretty, it's kind of neat, but that's because this was a nice new planner and I wanted it to be nice and neat. But starting with a brainstorm before you actually start setting your goals can really help you identify what you might want your goals to be. Working on too many things at once can either lead to burnout or just not making a lot of progress. So I find that starting with a brainstorm to get all of my ideas on paper first will help me then select which ones I actually want to focus on. So you can of course get messy with it. This one's done in my nice big brainstorming book, and this brainstorm in particular wasn't so much about picking goals, but more about taking my goals and breaking them down into actions. So thinking about, for this goal, what are the different areas that I want to work on, and what does that mean in terms of actually weekly, daily, monthly tasks that I have to get done. It might be messy, but it was super useful. Another page that can be useful to set up before you actually start setting your goals is that of a level 10 life. This one involves taking each of the different categories of your life, and I do encourage you to pick these categories yourself rather than just using mine because your life situation is different to my one, as is everybody's. But taking those categories and rating them out of 10, where 1 is the worst possible score, like complete unhappiness, and 10 is the very best outcome. What I'd also encourage you to do is kind of set up a scale for yourself in terms of like, what does 1 mean? What does 6 mean? Just so that you have a little more clarity around assigning those values. I do have a separate video on the level 10 life if you want more information, but on this one, each of the colored bars, I just colored them in because I like rainbows, but they come up to what my rating was at this point in time. So for physical health, I gave myself a rating of 3, for mental health, I gave myself a rating of 4, so on and so forth. Each of the stars represent what my rating was last time I did this, because I like to do a level 10 life check-in with each new journal. So last time I rated it, I gave physical health a 2, this time it went up to a 3. Last time I rated my personal development at a 3, but this time it had gone up to a 5. Of course, you can also go down in ratings, but it helps to see if you're kind of tending in the right direction. You can also then use your level 10 life to inform what you might want your goals to be. So anything that's the lowest rated section, maybe those are the things that you want to focus on. A fun layout that you can use for your goals is that of a bingo board. I know mine says self-care because it was mainly related to self-care tasks, but you could also just populate this with your goals for the year or for the season, month, etc. The nice part about this kind of layout is that you can also set it up so that you have rewards for certain amounts of completion. So your first horizontal, your first vertical, or your first diagonal completed, and then the full board as a whole. When I do bingo boards, I like to set them up with little doodles and pictures just to make them look a little bit more fun, but you could just write in what your goals are too. Another way to make your goals fun is a 23 in 2023 list, so 23 goals that you want to complete in the year of 2023. Of course, if you're not setting up your journal for 2023, then 24 and 24, 25 and 25, so on and so forth. And just remember, these don't have to be big things. They can be smaller things or a combination of big and small things, but essentially 23 things that you want to get done in the year of 2023. I've just set this one up so that we have a little checkbox for each of the 23 things, so the thing could be written beside this box and then ticked off once it's been completed. A similar idea to this one is 23 23s in 2023, where you have 23 things that you want to do 23 times in the year. For these ones, I do encourage you to make them small things, so just really consider what you could realistically do 23 times. So for me, that's things like 23 movies watched, 23 TV show seasons watched, 23 new artists listened to. Along with this section here where I can effectively track my progress in graphical form, so just filling in a little box as I complete each of those individual times. I then also have a place to list out the details of that. So for those 23 movies I watched, what were the movies? I can write the titles in here. Same idea with TV shows. For the new artists listened to, I can write down the artist name. So I've got little pages after this one to write down the details. For some of them, I'm writing down a little bit more, so I've got 2 columns to write that stuff in. But for some of them, I'm going to be taking down less information. So maybe just like a date or something like that. So for 20-minute workouts, I don't need to write out what type of workout I did. I just want to denote that it got done, so I want to write out what date it happened. Having that space to write that extra information just means that when it comes to filling out my graphical part, I'm more likely to not stuff it up, more likely to not accidentally record things twice. Plus, I appreciate having that extra info. Still thinking about getting things done, another idea we have for a goal-related layout is that of the 101 things list, or 101 things that you want to get done in the year. Now, I know 101 things sounds like a lot, and I mean, technically, in a way, it kinda is, but I really enjoy this list just as a way to have all of these little things that I want to get done in one place so that if I have a little bit of extra time, maybe a spare afternoon or a weekend or whatnot, I can refer back to this list and find one of those little things that I wanted to do and actually get it done. You can see from the black boxes, I did not get the entire list done. I really don't push myself to 100% my 101 things list, but there are still some really fun things on here that I did get done and are nice good memories for me. So stuff like celebrating my 30th birthday, or upgrading my editing software, or going to the food expo, getting a filling on smiley face. They don't necessarily need to be good things, I suppose. As I said, I do encourage you to populate it with not just big things, because doing 101 big things in one year, that'd be quite a stretch. Coming back to this page, our 7th idea is that of a goal action plan. I love action plans, they are one of the most useful layouts in my opinion, but it's effectively taking your goal and breaking it down into the steps that you actually need to do in order to get it done. I set this one up so that we have one goal at the top and one goal at the bottom. I've listed out what the why or the reason behind that goal was, and then also broken it down into 3 focus areas. For each of those focus areas, I have one-off tasks, the ones with the little grey dot, and then I also have repeated actions or the things that I need to do on a monthly, weekly, or daily basis. Those ones would then get put on a monthly action plan, which looks something like this. So the monthly action plan is broken up into those sections that we've talked about before. So the one-off or monthly tasks, the weekly tasks or things I need to do on an every week basis, and then the daily tasks or things that I need to do on an everyday basis. The one-off and monthly tasks, they just get an individual tick box that I can tick off once it's done. The weekly tasks I set up with numbers to represent each of the weeks in that month. So 1 being the first week, 2 being the second, so on and so forth. And then the daily tasks get individual habit trackers for each of those, or instead I'll put them on my habit trackers that I put on my weekly spreads or in my monthly setup. Depends on the month. Again though, action plans, super helpful because this is actually where you're getting stuff done. It's also good to have a place to note down the progress that you're making on your goals, and something like a milestone log could be helpful for that. This one's just set up like a simple list, so header, list of when things happened and what it was that happened. Or you could do these more as memory keeping style pages, or really whatever fits to the goals that you've set for yourself. Something that I think is super valuable and possibly a little underrated when it comes to goal setting is that of goal reflection. So at the end of a set period of time, whether that be a week, a month, a quarter, etc., reflecting on the progress that you've made, any kind of challenges you faced, and what you want to do moving forward. This one's set up as a quarterly goal reflection, so I listed out what my goals had been for the quarter that passed, what highlights or achievements did I have related to those goals, what lowlights or challenges did I face, and how could I make better progress on the quarter ahead. I then also had a separate little reflection space for each of those goals individually, so rewriting out the goal title, talking about the status of the goal, so am I keeping it or am I tweaking it, etc. So for instance, this one got demoted from a main goal to a mini goal. This one was still happening, but it wasn't a focus, and this one was also still happening, but wasn't a focus. I also just wrote some notes about each of those and gave them a little progress bar. You can see that all of them were about half finished. How in depth you get with your reflection is very much up to you, but I encourage you to do the reflection process because it just really helps clarify what's working, what's not working, how can we make more progress. If you don't necessarily want to do your goal setting on a quarterly or annual basis, maybe you want to look a little bit further afield, then you could set up something like an Apocalist. So a list of things that you want to do before the apocalypse. It's essentially just a cute name for a bucket list. I just like this term better. As suggested by the title, it is just a list of things that I want to do. You could set it up more decoratively. I wanted to keep this one simple. Of course, as you can see, I have a lot of space on this list for more things to add, but if you wanted to strip it back just a little bit, you could instead set up a list like a 60 before I'm 60, or 50 before 50, 40 before 40, 100 before 100, whichever age you want to focus on. As the title suggests, this is a list of 60 things that I, in theory, want to get done before I'm 60. These are all actually just ideas. They're not my actual 60 before 60 list. Not that I have one, because I have an Apocalist. A whole bunch of fun goal-related layouts though, and if you were looking for more goal setting and planning inspiration, then the playlist on screen is going to be super helpful. Or if you were looking for 101 things ideas, then I do have a separate playlist for that one. Click or tap on either of those playlists and I'll see you over there.